Greetings, ladies and mentalgents, and welcome to this latest episode of Tales from Outer Space, where I take a space-related story from around the internet and read it out loud for your enjoyment. All the relevant links are down below. Please don't forget to do the usual YouTube gumph, because if you don't, the nanite swarms will steal your other sock. But more importantly, as always, I hope that you enjoy. I just want to give a quick thanks to the Tier 5 channel members and patrons. Bob the Dragon, Datamagnet, Sergeant Puma, Cat Crab Lobster, and Duck Machine. Thank you very much for the support. It is much appreciated. Parasites, written by Weerdo5255. Staring at the creatures for a moment, Mary sighed and folded her hands behind her back. Just kill me. The creatures in the room looked at one another and then back at Mary. What? Asked the unnaturally tall and impeccably dressed creature in the center of the dark room. Mary glared back at it. I give up. How the hell are you things real, for feck's sakes? Stalking towards the closest of the creatures, one that looked like it was a sidekick to Fecker number 2, the tall one. Mary stared it in the eyes. Fecker number 2 leaned back slightly. Red eyes wide, it took a small step back. Raising a hand, Mary stabbed a finger into the thing's mouth. Fecking hell, kill me, groaned Mary as she glared at the pearly white fang that is inside the thing's mouth. Fecker number 2 slapped her hand away and frowned. Mary winced, the crack of at least one bone breaking audible in the small chamber. Mary took in a breath. Feck! Bringing her leg up, Mary slammed it into Fecker number 2's crotch. The creature's eyes widened and it fell to its knees, groaning in pain. Mary pulled her phone out, switching her flashlight on and inspecting her hand. It was red and swollen already. Feck! Would you please stop swearing? Growled the tall creature. Motherfucker, you kidnapped me. You want to hold a nice conversation, knock on my fecking door like a Mormon. Don't drag me out of bed at 2 a.m. and expect me to be fecking happy, jerk. The tall creature shook his head. The vulgarity of this generation. Mary raised her hand and slowly extended her middle finger. The fattest and pale creature shrugged. She's got enough life in her to keep even your spawn entertained, I think. Mary ignored him and stomped her right leg down on the creature still on the floor. Pain shot up her thigh. It was like kicking a cinder block. The pain was manageable, and nothing at all compared to the previous injury. Will you stop and listen to us? Asked the tall creature, extending his hands out in supplication. No! Mary whirled on her feet, considering the utter stupidity of the things already. She was only mildly surprised to see that the door on the dank room was ajar. Cursing herself, Mary broke out into the run towards it. There was a small thump and the fat creature was suddenly in front of it, opening. Its red eyes flashed. Stop cursing and listen to us! The voice was layered with some of the additional harmonic. Mary paused and swayed on her feet for a moment, opening her mouth to curse. No words came to mind, and she narrowed her eyes at the thing. Raising her hand, she was now sure had broken the wrist. Mary slammed it into her own head. Feck! She breathed as another wave of pain from both her hand and her head flooded her brain, clearing whatever suggestion was. The fat creature's eyes widened and Mary glowered at the thing. We have brought you here because you have a very important role in the future, Mary Susanna Sue, said the tall man from behind her. Mary glanced back and rolled her eyes. Go to hell. You want to sell me destiny, rent a booth in the mall next to the tarot card reader. I assure you that we're no mystics, growled the tall man. Mary huffed. You're vampires with an assault fetish. How original. Like I said, kill me, or let me go. I'm not staying here. Move, fat ass. She lashed out and hit the one in front of the door. His stomach gave slightly, but he otherwise remained in place. The vampire on the ground, who she had apparently hit in one of the delicate pieces of his anatomy, slowly got to his feet and shook his head. Mary Sue, that's not what this is. Your blood, it is marked as a match for my own. When I turn you, you'll smell it as well. We are destined for one another. Mary's eyes widened and she guffawned once. Wow, talk about an ego. Motherfucker, you kidnapped me. Now you love me. How the hell does that line up? The creature winced. We need to get you away from your home. Another pack was moving through. Someone else might have matched with you. They would not have been so courteous, taking and biting you in your sleep. That's assuming they just didn't simply drain you. So, instead of vagrant vampires, I get high-class respectful ones. I feel so fecking lucky. Mary sighed and put a good hand on her hip. Convince me, what the hell is the advantage of being a vampire? The tall creature furrowed its brow. Immortality, invulnerability, endless youth, every sense is enhanced and you no longer have to worry. The only thing you need is blood. If you have conniptions about killing humans, you can take only what you need. Mary rolled her eyes. So considerate. What about the unadvertised benefits? Sunlight, wooden sticks, garlic, silver bullets, all that werewolf thing. The tall one's mouth thinned, and Feckard too hissed. Fecking hell. Those are real too, growled Mary. Do not mention them again, hissed Feckard too. Answer the questions. The tall one glanced at Feckard too and nodded. Sunlight is painful, but not fatal. Wooden sticks hurt, and garlic smells bad, and no bullet is lethal. So, how would I kill one of you? Asked Mary. Feckard too frowned. That is not something you need to worry about. Cool. Tell me anyway. Kill me or let me go. Feckard too shifted awkwardly. Enough blood force trauma to do it, or fire in enough of a concentration is lethal. Mary nodded. So modern weapons are still lethal, and I have to hunt down and kill people to feed myself instead of going to the corner store. This seems so convenient. What happens if I don't drink blood? The tall man was frowning now. You cannot resist the compulsion to do so. I said bullets would not affect you. No weapon that man has created has ever been effective at killing us. How many of you feckers actually live in modern war zones? Mary spat. The tall one raised an eyebrow. Humans in wartime are more difficult to hunt. Their dull senses are on high alert. The weapons are painful, but not permanently damaging. It's easier to hunt in nations like this, where the populace is docile. What about a nuke? Feckard too blinked. We strive to not be noticed enough for humans to take such drastic measures. A warthog, oh wait, Mary paused and looked at the fat one. How old are you idiots? The fat one puffed out its chest. I am old enough to have watched Rome fall. Mary put her good hand on her face. So you've been around for 2,000 years. Why the hell haven't you jerks taken over the world? Does being a vampire make you an imbecile? We are creatures without souls, aberrations of nature. For as long as we have existed, we have kept ourselves in check. It is not our place to rule the humans, said the tall one. You're cowards, you mean? His face hardened, and he glanced at Feckard too. You are sure her blood calls to you? Mary stepped forward. You've had an advantage for 2,000 fecking years. You'd rather just sit back and enjoy the fruits of your labor. You really are parasites, Humans die in droves against one another. We had you to fight off. We would have united and killed you in an instant. Nowadays, give a pissed-off 19-year-old kid a gun, and I bet he'd beat you. Mary stalked forwards. So last question. What happens if I shoot off your schlong? You grow that back? Feckard too looked taken aback for a moment. Well, no, you can reattach the limb that is chopped off. Have any of you looked at a biology under a microscope? If you can do that, then you have nerve regenerative properties, unless you're some deep voodoo magic. The tall man drew himself up. The sciences of man are little use to us, the medical sciences in particular. We do not get sick, we do not die. Mary reached down and pulled her pants leg up. So I get to have a missing foot for eternity? No thanks. The three creatures looked at the mechanical limb as she flexed the back metal carbon composite prosthetic. What happened to you? Asked Feckard too. Mary looked at him. I was a pilot. I fought in the war. I crashed. I learned exactly what the inside of my leg looked like when I had to hack myself free. Morphine doesn't help when the pain is in your fecking bones. So excuse me if I don't feel threatened by parasitic fecks who are so assured of their superiority they don't even know how to jam a cell phone. Even the dumbest fecks in the middle of the East would have taken radios when they kidnapped someone. The two in front blinked. Cell phone? Asked Fecker 2. Mary rolled her eyes and reached around and pulled her phone out. A radio! You feckers here yet? Asked Mary. You called us in the middle of the night, Major. It's just me and Hank. The three parasites stared at the phone, and Fecker 2 nodded. No wires? Mary dropped the device and, spinning on her remaining natural foot, slammed her prosthetic into the fat creature's head. He stumbled to the side slightly, and Mary leapt over him. She cursed as the prosthetic locked in place, forcing her to run like a drunken pirate up the stairs. The things had dragged her into a basement of some old house in the middle of nowhere, with nothing but a field around it. Mary immediately went diagonally away from the top of the stairs. Mary! Shouted Fecker number 2 as he ran up after her. A loud report of the M107 anti-material rifle firing echoed over the field, and Mary winced. You feckers hit me and I'll kill you! Shouted Mary into the darkness. Mary heard a groan behind her, but didn't look back as she tripped and fell flat on her face. The prosthetic was not built to be slammed into anything as hard as it had been, and it was beyond a quick reset. Not to mention that she had unseated the thing from a stump, and it was digging into the sensitive flesh. Motherfucking sparkly rear vampires! Mary growled as she crawled through the dirt and mud of the surrounding field. Headlights flashed on the familiar roar of Reggie's truck was for once a welcome sound to Mary. Continuing to crawl, she had to trust that the two could see her on the ground. The truck continued to barrel towards her, and Mary yelped, rolling to the side as it nearly hit her. You feckers! Shouted Mary as the truck slid to a halt. Standing up in the bed of the truck, M107 planted on the roof, Hank didn't turn around to look at her, but nonetheless grinned. Just making sure you're awake, Major. Hopping up on one foot, Mary pulled herself onto the back of the truck as Hank fired again. Digging around in the bed of the thing, Mary picked up the first assault rifle she found, ignoring the handguns that were sliding around the back. Raising the P90 and throwing herself up beside Reggie, Mary accidentally shoved her knee into the back of the cabin window, showering Hank with glass. Motherfucker, I just replaced that, shouted Hank as he floored the accelerator and sped towards the form that was slowly staggering to its feet in the field. Mary ignored him and opened fire. The automatic fire of the military weapon was nothing compared to that of the plane that she'd once flown, but it was nonetheless satisfying. At such close range, all but a few of the 50 rounds slammed into the parasite's chest. You bring explosives? Mary asked. Hank raised a bottle. A little harder to swipe on short notice. Yet you managed an anti-material rifle. Hank lit the length of cloth stuffed into the bottle and unceremoniously tossed it onto the thing. The three didn't watch as the creature burst into flames, focus already moving towards the stairs that Mary had run out only moments before. The fat one stuck its head up, and before Mary could even register that her head was gone and a significant portion of the concrete behind him as well. Ow! Complained Mary as her ears rang. Dropping the P90, Mary lifted the Spaz 12 shotgun up. Even on her best day, the kick from the weapon was little too much to handle comfortably for a smaller frame, and without a prosthetic, it was positively stupid. Mary was pissed though. Hank killed the engine and jumped out of his truck, seating the M16 to his shoulder. Reggie dropped an anti-material rifle, raising his own M16, dropped to the ground before his partner. Both quickly moved forwards to stand at the entrance of the stairs. Dropping to the ground, falling onto her shoulder, Mary winced as her broken wrist throbbed. You good, Mary? Asked Hank, his eyes still locked forwards. I just broke that leg in. Burn them. Idiot told me that was the best way to kill them. Maybe they were lying? Asked Reggie. I don't think these feckers even have the concept of tactics. Reggie shrugged and pulled out the lighter, leaned down next to the fat one's corpse, and lit the clothes on fire. The human corpse would have perhaps smoldered, if anything. The parasite's flesh caught on fire, and within moments the entire thing was ablaze. "Stop!" shouted the tall one. Slowly, the creature moved out of the basement, his hands up, his red eyes wide. "Down on your knees!" shouted Reggie. Mary hobbled forwards between the two men, watching as the thing slowly knelt. "Major," asked Hank, "as much as I'd love to kill him, I think the eggheads will be able to learn some things from him." "You're going to be the one to call the general and tell him what the hell happened here? I tried to explain, and I'm going to be committed." "You already need to be committed," growled Mary as she reached into the man's pocket and pulled out his cell phone. Mary paused and looked down at the thing. The tall man was glaring up at her, a mix of fear and pain on his face. "You've been a parasite long enough. It's time to earn your keep." End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you do, please consider supporting the author, even by popping over and leaving a thumbs up or a nice comment, just to show your appreciation for the story. However, if you wish to support this channel, there are links down below which will help immensely. I will see you all in the next one, and until then, I hope that you have a fantastic day. Cheers.